All right. Owen Benjamin is a stand-up comedian, an actor, a podcast host, a pianist. He is never afraid to share his non-PC perspective, which is quite hilarious and also just incredibly refreshing. His podcast is called Why Didn't They Laugh? And you can find that on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can also find episodes on his YouTube channel just titled Owen Benjamin, along with a bunch of different content. The important thing is you can find him on Twitter at Owen Benjamin. But if you want to get tickets to his tour, to his comedy tours, go on www. I got to say this carefully. It's hugepianist.com. That is a pianist, I think I should say. Hugepianist.com. Owen, it's good to have you here. How you doing?
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I'm a big fan.
Oh, thanks very much. Well, I got to say, I've been following your story, and it really is amazing the level of pressure to conform and to shut up that you are under. I mean, you have been banned from comedy clubs. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I was because of my stance on trans children, which is that it's child abuse.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to do a gig at UConn, and then I lost my agent. I was at CAA, and
Wow.
they dropped me because of that. And I know that you probably experienced some of this stuff as a writer as well, where it's like you can't I can be clean. I don't have to swear out of respect for certain audiences, but I can't change my thoughts.
Right.
And I have to think clearly. And if they tell me I have to lie about fundamental things that I don't believe, I can't be funny. So I had to face this struggle. And fortunately, I came out on the other side with it's really fun being on the other side and just being able to say whatever you want. And people have been so supportive, and I'm having a blast with it.
I mean, it really is a quandary for people like us because, I mean, I've lost publishing contracts. I've lost film deals. I calculate that my opinions have cost me in the millions of dollars. There's really no question about it. But our words are all we've got. I mean, our perspective is all we have to sell. And if we're not telling the truth about it, what are we? I mean, we're basically worthless.
Exactly. It's just taking out the fundamental engine of what makes us valuable in the first place. You know, and the craziest thing, the thing that gave me the creeps about the Hollywood world is they would be like, "Oh, you're terrible. Like what you say is really bad." And I'd look at them in the eye. I'm talking famous people that are still my friends, but secretly, apparently now, where I'd be like, "Do you think a 5-year-old's trans? And do you think they should be put on hormone blockers? Like, yes or no? Do you think that?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, so what exactly did I say that you have a problem with? And then I realized that when you're going after power acquisition and not ethics and morality or the good joke or just, your purpose in life, you have to basically sign a Faustian deal where you just slide anywhere they want you to go. And I'm like, comedy can't exist that way. And now as a greedy capitalist, I see that there's a massive underserved market. I did a tweet where it was all the late night hosts. It got like 20,000 retweets. I think Shapiro retweeted, a couple of guys retweeted it that you guys work with. And it just had all the late night hosts. And I said, every one of them endorsed the same candidate. They all have the same views. Ladies and gentlemen, comedy. And when you see that it's become propaganda, just anybody that just won't do that, just won't be leftist, there's just so many hungry people just looking to laugh. With like family-oriented comedy about, it's a great time to be married with this Me Too. I mean, there's never been a better time to be married with children and just, and I almost feel like being a family guy and being Christian and being like, hardworking is the new punk. Like people are like, how dare you? You're crazy, man. I can't believe you think that, there's good and bad in the world.
It is really true that we are the fact that at my age I'm part of the counterculture is one of the great ironies of my life. I mean, this is when I wanted to look like a banker and have a 3-piece suit and, you smoke a pipe and everything like this. And instead, I am the hippie of the modern world. It's an incredible irony.
I went from hacky to rebel in a year with the same jokes, because I've always and it's like they keep talking about toxic masculinity. I think there's a toxic femininity happening because comedy is usually a few years ahead of the curve because we're going for what makes people laugh and react. We can't do the agenda stuff. And maybe 8 years ago, I did a bit on how women are socialists and men are capitalists, and you can see it in our groups where women protect the weak. Like if one girl's sad, I'll just do that very quickly. I
Sure.
won't do the whole thing, but if one girl's sad, they're like, Tina's sad, lick her tears, we're out of here. And then if one guy is sad, we're like, dude, get away from us, Kevin, you're a bummer. But then the opposite is true. But the opposite is true where it's like, he's the funniest. Put him on stage. He's the fastest. Make him captain. And women are like, she's the prettiest. Tell everybody she has herpes. You know? And now it's true. This whole safe space PC thing is motivated by this overindulgence of that. And I think a lot of it comes from women hit a certain age without children. So they try to baby the entire world. And because these instincts are good when you have a 1-year-old. Like my wife it's phenomenal with that. It's like, it's about safety. This kid, everything he does is great, and just keep him away from the electric outlets and safety, safety, safety. And that's awesome with a child. It's not awesome when you're, Chelsea Handler with a Twitter account. It's like, stop babying me. I'm a grown up with my own house. You know what I mean? And so that's, and now I would do that. And, CAA loves it and all these movie stars love it. And I'm hosting all these galas and all this stuff. And the same jokes, Patton Oswalt's retweeting me. And then 3 years later, I'm now enemy of the state with the same jokes. And I'm like, oh, you guys have no consistency. It's about power with you guys.
What did CAA say to you? I have to know this. Like, what did they say when they got rid of you?
Just that I'm acting crazy on Twitter. It's because I said a name of a man, and see, it's almost like Genesis, where if you name something, it becomes real. Where all these people just keep being like, oh, we have to fight for children, we have to fight for women. It's like, who's raping? Say a name, And there's this guy, Jesse Thorne, and I read this article about him. He has a 6-year-old boy that he's saying is a girl, and he's calling the boy Grace. And he's a big NPR host, and he's in all the right circles. And on Twitter, I'm like, are you planning on giving this kid hormone blockers? And he was like, the doctors are experts, and they think, whatever's right for Grace. And I'm like, you're a monster.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is wrong. This is child abuse. And then I'm getting swarmed by blue check marks, not even like trolls, like people, like best-selling authors are coming at me.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't back down because I fortunately have a strong family. My family's awesome, and my brother's an arborist, and I can just do tree work. I could make 50 grand in a week, and then the next week be making $20 an hour, and not much changes in my life. And I was willing to do that full shift. Like I still do tree work with them all the time, and they couldn't dangle that carrot in front of me because I'm like, man, when you get rich, you have the same nightmares, just on sheets with a higher thread count. You know what I mean? And I'm like, Julius Caesar took over the whole world. He got a salad. Because money's awesome. I'm not saying money's bad. It just amplifies your purpose. If you're rich and a good person, you can take your family to France.
That's right.
But if you're not, you just self-destruct. So, and my wife is so awesome. And she's a stay-at-home mom, but master's in engineering, saw our son and really connected and wanted to stay home. Just like my mom was a professor, quit to raise us, and that's probably why I understand nuance and micro expressions in people's faces. And I don't have late onset autism like a lot of these millennial kids. And so that's what made me, I was still calling myself a liberal, and all my conservative friends are like, it's weird, buddy, but every single thing you say is conservative. Why are you calling yourself a liberal?
I know. I see this too.
Yeah, because that's the right answer, right? Isn't Bill Nye liberal other good people? Like I literally be like, oh, I'm a liberal, but I'm not into abortion, and I don't like big government, and it just, I would list like everything I believe. People were like, oh no, you're not at all a liberal, and I'm like, really? And just the Overton window just flew off a cliff, and when you see the left now, I mean, they're imploding, like with this Twitter, this big Project Veritas, and now they don't have a stance. They're just power acquisition monsters,
Right.
And now they're like, oh, it's a private company. They get to do what they want, and I'm like, remember that when a gay guy wants a cake, It's like, on that. And I think that's the big difference is the left will acquire power, and the right kind of has to stick with their guns even in bad times.
Well, you
But
know,
that in the long run, that always wins. Like Ben Shapiro is now a feminist, and he always was, but you just don't see it until things get this maddening, where it's like, treat women right. You're a feminist. It's like, get married, have kids, know that they're different and deserve respect. Don't just sleep with strangers. Like if you become one of these like reckless aborting feminists, you just end up sad with a silly hat.
So, I always hear from leftists, well, right wingers just aren't funny. And I always say right wingers aren't funny because leftists have no sense of humor. I mean, that's the minute you start laughing at them, they don't think it's funny. But what I want to know is, how did now you get blacklisted, you get sent away by CAA. And people ask me this question all the time. So I want to ask you, how did you get through? How did you move to the next phase? What was the plan?
Well, two things. First, real quick, when people say people on the right aren't funny, I don't think people realize how many massive movie stars and TV creators and comedians are actually not on the left, but they don't say it because they don't want to jeopardize $1 billion. Like I'm friends with some guys, it's which is sad in a sense because I have a friend worth, I don't know, $300 million, and I'm more free than him.
Yeah.
Because I get to just be like, no, the blue-haired feminist is psychotic. And he's like, man, I wish I could say that. And I'm like, you have all the money. All right. So anyway, so how did I get through it? Well, I got to give props to Joe Rogan and Dave Rubin because, I've done Fallon, I've done Leno, I've done all these shows. And when you get blacklisted, they take away all your ability of speaking to the public in any big forum. So. Right. One thing that happens is the Streisand effect. My YouTube went from 3,000 to 70,000 in two months, where it's just like, and people respected that I stood up for something. And so people came to me, and then Joe Rogan had me on twice in 2 months. And then Dave Rubin had me on, and Steven Crowder I became very close with. And we did a lot of sketches together. And, Dave Smith, who has a libertarian podcast, Stefan Malin, who had me on, like all these people that they just were like, tell your story. And I'm like, thank you very much. And I just kind of reshaped my career. And I thought I was going to lose everything. But thankfully for Patreon and super chats on YouTube and just these little things that I'm now self-producing another special that I'm shooting in my hometown. And it's never been better. Yeah. I mean, and my wife tells me how much happier I seem. And she has pride in what I did, and it's just a good time to be a comedian.
It's an amazing
because being a comedian
thing.
is art. Yeah, it's art. It is art, and it's not propaganda.
Right.
And it's not about getting. I said something on Twitter that some people shared where I was like, the difference between propaganda and comedy is comedy makes people laugh, propaganda makes people clap. I'm like, right? You just laugh because it's funny. Stephen Colbert says something and people clap, just like a Stalinist, hall. Yep. Where they're just scared to be the first person to stop clapping. And the marketplace of ideas is just like the marketplace of everything. And they will fail. And they will fail with no spirit left. And it's just like the Gulag Archipelago of jokes. I don't think the stakes are as high as Solzhenitsyn's time, but it's a similar type of soul-crushing march to your own demise. Their eyes don't shine like they used to.
Yep. There's no question about this. I mean, our old friend Uncle Jesus said the truth will make you free, and he knew a thing or two. And obviously, I can see looking at you that it's a liberating experience, and I know it for a fact.
It's unreal. Yeah. And I was raised Christian, and I was agnostic for a while, and as my son was being born, and I just prayed very hard, and I couldn't go back from that experience.
Right.
And so that's what got me back into Christianity because. You pray in turbulence, and then you kind of forget. But when your son's on being born and his heart stops and you pray to God, like you beg God, there's really, once the plane lands, there's really no going back from that. And so that's been a wonderful experience.
It's a beautiful thing. Hey, I got to go, Owen, but it's really nice talking to you. And you can get tickets for your tours at www.hugepianist.com. Is that right?
Yes. I'm 6'7" and I play the piano. I'm trying to be very accurate.
Nice. Well, come back again. I'd like to talk to you again. Really good talking to you.
I'd love to. Big fan. Later, man.
Thanks a lot. I mean, he's funnier sitting down than every guy on late night, lecturing us, Jimmy Kimmel crying and all this stuff. I have to tell this one joke. Have I told the parking spot joke?
I haven't heard it.
A guy is going to his first job interview, and he's going around the block and he can't find a parking space, and he says, God, please, I need this job so much. Please, please give me a parking space. If you'll give me a parking space, I will tithe myself. I'll give 10% of everything I make to the church. I'll go to church every Sunday. I'll be so loyal. Please just give me a parking space. And a car right in front of him pulls out of a parking space, leaving him an open spot. And he says, oh, never mind, God, there's one. That's reminded me. So Owen, when he realized when he prayed, he had to have integrity and stick with it.